Hey guys, how are you? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. You know, this place is to discuss life topics and career and to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. And so today I have Misha Rubin here. And for over 20 years, he dove into both material, business, and corporate worlds, as well as spiritual and inner and analogical realms. I'd like to talk to you about that. And his mission is to fill the world with empowered, impactful humans. And that's what we do here, right? We always talk about finding the best humans on the planet to come on here, grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. So today, Misha, how are you? We were
Hi,
supposed to do
Neena.
this a while ago, so I'm glad you're here. How you been?
I've been really well. Thank you.
Good, good. I know I have a lot of energy, so you're going to have to just bear with me, but I really get excited about things like this. And I love people who really like to pour into other people and, transform where they're going, or at least give them thoughts and ideas to start thinking differently than where they are. And so before we get into all of that you do, I would love to know a little bit more about you, Misha. So if you don't mind telling us who is Misha, we could just start with that little question and go from there.
Yeah, it's a big question actually, because it's actually very much aligned with the work that I do. But I usually say throughout my career, and maybe that's a good way to talk about myself, I tried it all. I
Mm,
tried jumping from one job to another one. I did quite a few of those. I tried taking a year off and to figure out my passion. Had a
mm,
great year, came back with no outcome, and I tried to stay with one company for 15 years and
mm,
become successful. And I became a partner in one of the big four management consulting firm. So I tried it all, and in throughout my journey, I always had this question: how come, though I had great jobs, I worked with good people, I did good things, and I still don't experience the sense of meaning and fulfillment, the ones that I was
mhm,
really looking for. And one, and it happened a little bit over 2 years ago now. Was sitting, in this meeting. It was before COVID, so it was like real meeting with real people, whiteboards, and
right.
everything. And we were discussing the next service offering to our clients, who are for the most part are large international banks. And as I was listening to everybody, I heard this quiet voice telling me very loudly, "You're done. It's just not aligned with who you are anymore."
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was a really scary moment for me because I have three small children. I'm a breadwinner in a family. I had some ideas about what I wanted to do, but not like this is like a clear winner idea. But
Mhm.
what I didn't know at that time, that in 6 months from that moment, I will wake up and I will know exactly why I wasn't fulfilled. Like I had answer to that question in language, not just as a feeling or some
Right.
theoretical thing. And that became a beginning of what I call the career leap method that I developed. And since that moment, because I usually move really fast when I have an idea, I started working with people, mid-career professionals for the most
Mhm.
part, and I started developing my method. And then I started working, with leaders, with people that started a new job and or got promoted into this new role, or started a business and now thinking about, so how do I do it? How do I have the most impact? I work also with people that are in whatever is called retirement or moving into retirement and thinking about, so how do I want to organize the rest, that part of my life,
Mm.
and actually leave legacy behind myself. So yeah, so that's basically me in a few sentences.
So was that something that you were working on, you think? Like that small voice came from somewhere, right? So was this a spiritual journey that you had started some time ago and it just started to develop in you, or was that just like a sudden thing?
It's probably both. It was
Yeah.
it's not in the vacuum. I always felt like I had this inner guide for myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, so it was both. It was there and it was sudden also. So it was
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. So that is scary, and it's funny, right? Because you said your personality is to then go ahead and do it, right? So was it like that? Like, did you hear the voice and
Yep.
we're like, I'm done, and literally just left, or
Pretty much, you know.
wow, Misha, that's bold. That's bold, right? So I think the voice, you're right. I guess it did speak to you kind of loudly because it made you move. It made you move, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was very clear. This it was really. I usually think there are these moments of choice, right,
Mm,
when we suddenly very clear, and that what I was clear if I continue with the work that I was doing, that I'll just make a damage to myself. You know, like it's
wow.
something that
Yeah.
I'll hurt myself,
Right.
and that it just was really the choice, that moment of choice, and I think we all face it, and sometimes but sometimes we have this clarity to make it.
That's so true. And so, are you working like helping people find that clarity in a way,
Yeah.
or yeah? Oh, you are. Okay. So, because I just love that story. I love because I've been at those moments when you're sitting there and you're hearing something and you're like, this is not me anymore. This is not me anymore, right? And that's huge because you said you were there a long time, right? Like 15 years?
Yeah, a long time.
Wow.
It was really
Wow.
like, yeah,
Did your wife think you were nuts when you came home and told her?
my husband.
Oh, your husband,
Uh,
okay. Did he think you were nuts?
well, no, we've been talking about this. You know, we've
Okay.
been,
Because that's a big move to come home and say, "Hey, honey,
yeah,
by the
yeah.
way, leaving my job."
No, and I think it's very important in the decisions like that. One of the things that I teach my clients and my students that you want to make sure that it's on you to create that support
Mm,
of your significant other. So there is a number of conversations that you need to be having and having and having
right, right.
along, so they understand where you are, why you want to make change, how that change will look like. So it's very important that you're surrounded by people that will support you, that you have yeah, any big change is
Yeah,
done, you need a team behind yourself to make
yeah.
it happen.
That's true. I'm super proud of you for doing that though, because you probably would have been a very miserable human, right? If you would have stayed in something that you are done with. And that happens to a lot of people, Misha. Like
Yeah.
they get caught up in that they have to do that. And so they stay there for a very long time. And I'm sure that you're experiencing that with your
Well,
clients.
I would say that there are several ways the way people get stuck, and
Mhm.
part of it, and this is where I think where the methodology that I developed is so useful, is that people stay stuck because they don't see what's possible. Like, for
Yeah,
instance,
that's good.
right now, we live in extraordinary times, right? That nobody ever had, no other generation ever had. With pandemic, remote work became
Mhm.
acceptable. So suddenly you can work anywhere,
It's
so
true.
pretty much anywhere, right? Our whole society is transforming. And in the past 2 years, I think we made a 20-year leap in how our society operates. So when shift like that happens, there's a lot of new opportunities opening up because there's a lot of new businesses, or businesses are transforming, industries are transforming, new businesses opening up. So it is a great time to be looking.
Yeah.
I think there's unprecedented access to learning. We need to remember that nobody could like sit on their couch and get their MBAs or certifications or whatever it is. It's all available right now to people.
Mhm.
So nobody had what we have now. And a lot of people still
True.
feel stuck because I think the stuckness comes, and I remember that feeling very well myself. Like, if I only knew what it is I should be doing, then I would do it, right? And when you don't know what it is, then everything becomes scary. You don't know whether you'll make enough money. You don't know whether you'll
Yeah.
have the right skills. You don't know whether you'll be successful. So the fear becomes like this big ball of fear. And then the question, and nobody teaches us how to systematically discover what are right opportunities for us. To know that's
Right.
something that nobody taught us in school, in college. There is no education around that. So in the methodology that I developed, I came up with this idea of personal guiding criteria. So each of us
Good.
have a guiding criteria, and if we could only articulate it in language, if we could only be able to say it in words, then we could examine different industries, we could examine different business ideas that we might have, then we could examine, is this the right organization, then we could examine the whole series of opportunities that exist. And also you'll become very clear why you're not happy at your current job. It will not
Right.
going to be a mystery. Suddenly you'll know exactly what's the ingredient that's missing, right, in this equation. And then, so what I do is I walk my clients through this journey of discovering their personal guiding criteria. And then based on that, so your personal guiding criteria would be your vocational values, for instance. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting that you mentioned clarity, because clarity is one of my values, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I bring. So my vocational values are making a difference, clarity, and creating,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I work with people in this conversation, or whenever I talk to anybody, my intention is always to make a difference. I bring clarity, so people go from not knowing to suddenly like, oh, it could look like this, I could do this. So that's
Good.
clarity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And creating. So I created this teaching, I created this business. My ultimate creation is my clients create what's next for them. But right now I'm using myself as an example. I do work that's fully aligned with my vocational values. And it's amazing to wake up in the morning and to know that whatever it is I'm doing, it actually fully aligned, that I'm not compromising
So
anything or
good.
anybody. Right. So when I help my clients identify their personal guiding criteria, then we examine a lot of different options that exist out there in the world right now of where and what they could be doing. And when we go through this exercise, they come up with ideas that are unimaginable for them. They couldn't even imagine that this is an option. And then from there we
Wow.
go and narrow down. And once you actually get to this idea, oh, I would be doing this, then you can evaluate it. And then you can evaluate it from, will I make enough money? Do I have the right skills, or will I be able to catch up?
Right.
Then it becomes very pragmatic and practical. And then you can examine an idea and say, you know what? After thinking about this, I don't think that's the right one, and we can go look at another one. But it becomes a very systematic exercise versus sitting and being stuck at your job, not knowing what to do next, being really afraid to make any
That's
move, because
good.
in the darkness and if not knowing, it is really terrifying. Listen, and people do spend a lot of time in that space,
Yeah.
sometimes their whole life, and
Mm-hmm.
life goes by really quickly.
It really does. And that's really good too, because you're making it very practical and not scary. Right? Because a lot of people, when they feel stuck, at least the people I've spoken to and the people I listen to the show who write me all the time are saying, thank you, because I needed that guidance. And I think what you're saying is going to be super important. I already have like 3 or 4 of my listeners that I know are going to benefit from what you're doing, because I remember speaking to them about, especially one in particular who's really big into finances. They're big in
Mhm.
finance, been doing it for 20 years, and they're now going through what you went through, like that crossroad, like, oh shoot, I don't want to do this anymore. But they're really, really scared because they have a family, they can't
Yeah.
leave. It's almost everything that you're saying. It's almost like, oh my God, when they listen to this, forget about it. I think you're going to get a phone call right
You
away.
know, Nina, for a long time, I was questioning myself, like, how come I'm doing this work? The one
Mm,
that I was like, how come I'm doing it? Just really didn't make fully sense to me. And then when I developed the career leap idea, it suddenly became clear to me that I had to experience all
mhm.
these spaces of being stuck, of being afraid, of not knowing, so that I can relate to people and I can really get what it is for them, what it would take for them to
Yeah.
make a shift, and how I can help them to do that.
Yeah, that's super important. I was going to point that out too, that you had to go through all of those things because now you totally get it, right? And so
Yes.
that's why, and when I'm picturing this person in my head, and I'm like, they're going to listen to this, and I know this is going to
Mhm.
really impact them because it's something they're currently like right now going through. So I think that your program is going to be great for this person. So I'm going to make sure I refer that.
Thank you.
I did wanted to talk to you about the different elements, because when I looked on your site, which by the way, very good site, very
Thank
nice,
you,
very
Nina.
clean, very easy to navigate. So I was wondering, you have like a few on there that you do. I think you do like one-on-one. It looks like you do maybe like corporate as well and some other things. So I just wanted you to kind of touch on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me talk about several ways I work with people.
Hmm.
So one person that I work with is an executive, mid-career professional, somebody that knows one way, for one reason or another, they are grew out of their current role or
Mhm.
their current job, and they're looking for what's next. So that's my signature. The Career Leap program is designed for that. I'll share about some great outcomes. Like it's so interesting. I recently got a message from my client that she was a nurse for 30 years, and she came to me and she said, Misha, I'm done being a nurse. I'm clear about that, but I have no idea about what I
Mhm.
want to do.
That's real.
And it's just that real.
Mhm.
And we identified her personal guiding criteria. We worked through a lot of ideas, and then she said, and then she got to this point that she wanted to be a holistic health coach.
Hmm.
So she just started her Reiki and yoga business about a month. She wrote me in December. She'll be proud. I finally gave a notice at
Wow.
work. So it took her a little bit of time. For some people, it takes time.
Yeah.
So that would be one example. Or another example that somebody I'm currently working with. So there's such a great guy, was stuck in his career for some time, has a family with small kids, was really kind of afraid to move because of all this responsibility on him. So through my work, he not only got clear about his values, but I trained him how, for instance, to talk to his boss and ask for 80% raise. Isn't that crazy? Like the
Yes.
fact, but
What are
we
you
talk
doing?
you,
I'm only kidding.
you talked about being an empowered, impactful human. It's somebody who can actually go out and have that conversation. Not just that, he created a whole new role for himself in
Oh,
his
good for him.
organization.
Mm.
And his company didn't meet his requests to the extent he wanted to, and he found a job in a new industry, in the ones that he really wanted to be. He's going to be
Wow.
making 2.5 times more money that he was making in his previous job. He's moving into a new location where he really wanted to be. It's like it's a completely new person.
That's
So
awesome.
that's kind of, there is a lot of magic that's happening in when
Yeah.
people start really looking inside of themselves, because our career is integrated actually and connected to our relationship with
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
spouses or partners and our children, and how we operate and experience life in general. So that's the Career Leap program. The second program that I want to mention, it's called the Leader's Leap. So it's for somebody who is in a leadership role. It could be an organization, could be running their own business. By the way, in the Career Leap example, some people are starting their own businesses. Like I
Right.
had business people that starting organic farms, right, or their health coaching business, right. So there's a lot of. But in the Leaders Leap program, it's where you already maybe started your business, or you are in a leadership role, and you're really thinking about how do you maximize your impact, like
Mhm.
how do you make a bigger impact. By the way, I'm all taking it to the same concept of your personal guiding criteria, because
Right.
how you are as a leader is you need to be rooted in something, right?
Right.
And if you understand who you are, and you can suddenly be grounded in your, for instance, vocational values and your strengths and your motivation mechanisms, you can be a much more impactful leader in the world, right? So
Yeah.
that's the second program, the Leaders Leap. My third program is for people that are considering retiring or are retired. I don't even like the word retired, because it kind of means different things for them, but somebody who kind of going into that phase of their life where
Right.
they don't have to work for money. That's
Right.
how. And then the question is then, what are you leaving behind yourself? And
Mm.
how do you also want to organize your life to, so you have your life set up as you want. Maybe you don't want to work crazy hours anymore, and you want to spend more time with your family, your grandchildren, and you want to make an impact. But where it is you want to make that impact, how it is you want to make, and how
That's
to
awesome.
design your life in the way that all pieces fit in together. That's my program, the Legacy Leap.
The
And I
leg.
also work with corporate, like recently was invited to speak at women in technology in one of the large organizations, and we talked about career management. Like, how do you develop your career? I also talked to, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you did your career, excuse me, your career path the way you did. I also love the fact that you took that year off, right? I'm sure that even though you said I came back with with no clarity, the truth is though that has all of those experiences, right? really are, at least as I'm hearing you speak, are really what's helping you develop and help these other, these people. And I know, because I'm a professional myself, and I've been in my field for about 15 years now. I do know several professionals that are going through this right now, Misha, right now, right? Where they,
Yes.
I mean, and I think you're right. I mean, COVID kind of gave us that as a gift, right? We had to pause for a second and realize what we were doing and stop the rat race and 60-hour, days, it felt like, so.
Right.
And I'm seeing that in a lot of my friends, my audience, things like that, where they are really feeling that right now. So you're
Yep.
you're in a sweet spot right now in what
Yes.
you're doing. And another good thing I love about what you said is that you are not just talking to like one audience of, professional going into entrepreneurship, but you're also talking to the professional who maybe wants to stay a professional and go to the next level of whatever that
The
means,
thing is,
right?
sometimes people are not clear about what it is they
Right.
want. Sometimes
Right.
entrepreneurship sounds like a great idea, and
Right.
basically, through my this personal guiding criteria, you can actually examine whether that's the right idea for you.
Right. That's
Because
good.
it could sound very romantic. It's not, might be not the right thing for some people, or
It's
not the
true.
right thing for some people to do it by themselves, maybe with the right partner.
Mhm.
That so that's all that examination of that we do within my programs.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. It has that spin to it where it's not just
Mhm.
this is the, one way you're going, cuz a lot of people that I speak to, or some of them anyway, are more about that transition from professional into entrepreneurship, or getting unstuck into entrepreneurship. What I love about what you're saying is you can also just level up in your professionalism and what you're doing professionally. And sometimes, because I think that that's what scares some people. Like, well, I don't
Mhm.
really want to leave my job. I kind of like working for, a
Yeah.
corporation,
Yeah.
right? So that's,
Listen, yeah,
yeah,
there's so many different paths.
yeah,
What I give people is really tools so they can examine all their options, not blindly, and
right.
not because something just falls into their lap.
Hmm.
There's this concept that I developed that's called opportunity trap. An opportunity trap is when somebody calls you and says, "Hey, there is this new job or new position, or there is a business idea, or there is this." And you kind of think just because somebody calls you, right, that it's a right thing for you. And then if you
Mm,
pursue a bunch of those a few times, you really might end up in a place where you never wanted to be. So the
yeah,
question is, how do we examine all these different options, the one that come to us or the one that's out there? We don't even know they out there because we don't have any way to even discover that they exist.
yeah.
And that's the tools that I teach people, and those are the tools that one can use for life.
That is so good. And as you were saying that, I started thinking that is so true. And I think what happens is that you start to question, especially if you're stuck, whether or not that next opportunity or those opportunities that keep coming will get you unstuck. And so you're right. I think stopping for a pause for a second and examining is like so vital, because I get offers all the time, all the time. And
Right.
I'm always like, no, thank you so much. But yeah, no, I said, no, thank you so much. I know I learned
Yeah.
how to say no, but I wasn't always like that.
But
Yeah.
the stuckness comes, and I was like, that's where me examining my own stuckness
Mhm.
from really the lack of tools, right?
Mhm.
So that's where
Mhm.
the stuckness comes from. That suddenly you don't have, it's almost like you're getting to this place and you don't have any tools that work there, right?
Right.
That's where stuckness feels like more of the same, of the same, of the same. And the tools that you already have, you probably try them and they don't work. And you
Right.
keep trying them and they keep getting. So, in order to get unstuck, you need to get to the core, and the core actually related to who you are. And once you
Right.
understand, that's where I find this personal guiding criteria so important. Once you understand what it is, first of all, you'll know exactly why you're stuck, why it's not working for you, and then you'll
Right.
have tools to examine other ideas
Yeah.
that will. People don't like. I spoke with somebody, this brilliant woman. She's like, no, no, no. She tells me, I either need to get a job in another bank, or if I really want to make an impact, I need to go work for a nonprofit. And I was like, well, no, there's actually many, many options, especially nowadays in
Right.
between. If you want to make a difference in the, if you inspired by education, for instance, a whole educational system is transforming. If you want to make a difference in some social interactions of how many startups and big companies that rethinking how to do it. If you want to make a difference in the field of energy, and I don't know, it's part of it is figuring out what it is calling
Yeah.
you and
Hmm.
how to evaluate what are your opportunities there. And once you have an opportunity, that's kind of one part of my program is a discovery, but the second part is a pursuit. So then the question, if you're changing industries or changing roles, so that then the question is, how do you tell your story?
Mm.
How do you create your story in a way that it's compelling for the other ones, that you're coming from a different industry, what it is you're bringing? And this is where people really get stuck a lot on their skills, and
Mm.
they have, but in reality, skills are acquirable, and there are so many ways to acquire skills nowadays, and there's so many, the learning, right, is
Yeah.
unimaginable to acquire. A lot of experiences are actually transferable. So if you manage something, if you started something, if you grew something, if you designed something in one area, you can probably leverage a lot of similar these experiences can be
Yeah.
applied in some other industry or in some other the question is, how do you get comfortable about what it is you have and what it is you don't? How do you close your gaps? How do you have these conversations? And that's where I really become a partner for these people
Hmm.
to in this journey that could be challenging, that could be complicated, that so
Yeah. No, that's really, really good, Misha. So, I mean, you've given us a lot of great gems here, and I could, I feel like your energy is like super aligned with what you're doing. Like you really found what you're doing. How do you keep yourself, constantly in that? Like, do you have a routine or something where you do some self work yourself and look in and make sure you're still aligned with what you're doing?
Yeah, so my the principles that I use for my own life and in all my methodologies, whether it's the career leap methodology, the legacy leap, the leaders leap methodology, it's all rooted into the principle of leap by design. So I
Hmm.
believe that in our lives we always are in a journey into some
Hmm.
change, right? Whether it's in a career, whether it's in our life, whether it's in our relationship, whether it's with our children, whether
Hmm.
it's with our health, you name it, right? We always in some type of a change.
Hmm.
But for the most part, most people, most of the time, the change just happens. It just comes, it just, you deal with something, it just comes to you and then you deal with it. So a lot of life is really reacting to the
Reactive.
things that come.
Hmm.
I'm a big believer that you can design your leap.
Oh, okay.
Whether it's a career leap, whether it's a life leap,
Mhm.
whether it's your health leap, so you're always in that leap and that you always have a say in terms of how you want to design it, right? So I'm always applying these principles of leap by design in my own life, right? In my own work and with myself.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good. Because I think that's going to keep you, abreast of the changes in your life. And so you can keep changing and helping others. So, Misha, I love what you're doing. I think,
Thank
I
you.
think it's fantastic. I really, really do. I really resonate with it. And like I said, I already have a few people in mind. So
Awesome.
since people are listening, why don't you go ahead and give us like how people can reach you, where they can find you to work with you, that kind of great stuff.
Awesome. So the best way to reach me is go to misharubin.com. You have
Yeah.
a little bit of information about me. There, I'm, I have a lot of interviews where I'm participating. It will give you an idea about my programs, about my philosophy, about my life. You can even listen to my music and see pictures of my kids, right? So you'll
Yeah,
get
that's
a
awesome.
sense of who I am and how I operate. Yeah, and you can reach out to me right there.
Okay, great. So, guys, you heard it here. So, make sure you go to Misha Rubin. And for those of you who are listening, it's MishaRubin.com. And I will make sure to link all of his information below so that you can follow him, listen to him, go and look at his programs. I think it'll be worth all of your time. Misha, thank you so much for being with us today on Street Talk. I appreciate you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Nina. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure,
Thank
truly.
you. All right, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends so we can grow this community and keep moving forward. Until next
This
time.
broadcast is brought to you by Wincheck Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.